Okay, we're on the same way as we do every week with Coach Lea. Going to introduce Athletic Director, Vice Chancellor Candice Lea. We'll have an opening statement, and then if raise your hand, call on you each for questions.
All right, thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, you all. Great to see everybody. I think we're going to spend the bulk of the time today just doing some Q&A, but I'm really happy to stand in front of you to talk about what has been a historic season for Vanderbilt football. And, you know, in my mind, we are clearly one of the best teams in the country. We're certainly playing like it, and I think that we have positioned ourselves to chase everything that we said at the beginning of the year that perhaps for some people didn't seem feasible or real. We have quietly just gone about our business. And now that the regular season is over, you know, I think akin to who we are, we just simply want to talk about the facts, and we believe that data beats bias every day. And so there is, as we've said, there's more for Vanderbilt football to reach for. We think that opportunity should be and is in front of us. And just I'm referring to some notes because we've been thinking about this for a while. You know, when the College Football Playoff Committee talks about what they want to see, they want to see teams who are playing their best football at the end of the season. Check. They want you to have ranked wins and a strong strength of schedule. Check. Understanding that if you do lose, they can't be bad losses. And so our 2 losses are quality losses. So check. And we believe that Diego Pavia is the best football player in the country. And what he adds, the difference that he makes, the impact that he has is the most significant to a team in the country. And so when you think about that from a personnel standpoint and you think about the trajectory of this team, the opportunity to play at the highest level, which is what we said we wanted to do, I think we've checked every box to give ourselves the best chance to do that. This was not really a talking point that I had, but we also talked about just the, you know, in the SEC, and we know how rigorous and competitive the SEC is. You know, we have competed in front of hostile environments, huge crowds, and done pretty good. We're 10-2. So when you think about the fact that there are only 8 programs in this country that have stadiums that seat 100,000 or more, and we played in 3 of them and competed very well every single week, we think our body of work is worthy of us being included in the playoffs. Turn it over for questions.
You guys doing anything like with the PR campaign for Diego or for the college football playoff? And if so, what does that involve? Outside agencies, those kind of things?
I will make sure that, I think comms can make sure that they get you all the details, Chris, and everybody. But so 2 things. So 1, from a CFP standpoint, we're simply sharing the data. And we do have additional data that Brian can provide, because I'm not going to stand up here and read every single point to you all. I'll make sure that you have it so you can include it. You all may know that we have, Vanderbilt has a new campus in New York, and we have been very active in that media market. We're going to continue to do that, both from a CFP standpoint and a Heisman standpoint. But the answer to that, Chris, is yes, we're doing quite a bit. I'll make sure our team gets you all that information.
Yeah, recently you all announced that you were going to have a new football experience center. What does that entail specifically?
So, Arya, you might remember that when we announced Vandy United in 2021 and we laid out the initial parts of Phase 1, we included a football operations center. So we've always known that that infrastructure is critical to sustaining the success in this program. We now call it a football experience center because I think we have a clearer view on not only do we need to make sure experience-wise it has everything that our football student-athletes need day-to-day to be successful, but also it could give us an opportunity to engage other stakeholders, bring the community in, just think about how you can activate that space in a multi-purpose way. So when we say football experience center, first think everything that you would see in an operations center, right? An indoor practice field, access to outdoor practice fields, all the operational things like a weight room and equipment and sports science and locker room and offices and all the things that you would need day to day in a football hub. But then we're going to have some added elements that I think will be unique to Vanderbilt, but also help us when we think about all the ways we want to use this district, right? The Frist Athletics Village is a district that connects the academic side and also the community. And so I think that people will be very excited about what's to come, but that's how I would think about it. Football operations plus.
Chris Harris?
Just curious, I've always wondered, and now that you guys are in it, you get to be a part of it, the lobbying that goes on for teams trying to make their case who are on the cusp, like, do you feel that there's, like, a tangible result from the school making a push, like, that can actually have an effect on the committee?
You know, I'm not in the room, but I think my thought is, so number one, right now we're talking about who we are and we believe it deeply. So everybody that's listening, we're talking because we feel like we have a compelling story to tell and we think that the facts back that up. Two, I would say you've got metrics, of course, and there's always a flaw in metrics or in systems when you just look at something that's being spit out, right, that is computed. That's certainly one thing, but there's also a reason why there's a committee, because there's subjectivity and there's additional context to provide, and what you can see with your eyes may not be as easily ascertained in what you might see in a ranking. So we think it's important to speak to both of those things. But, you know, if your question is, do we think that it's going to work? I'll tell you that we're one of the best teams in the country and we should be playing in it. And that's a fact. So.
And then as a follow-up, so we know what time the rankings come out tomorrow night. Like, do you guys get any heads up before everyone in the country sees it on TV, or how does that work?
Well, if I did get a heads up, I wouldn't tell you, Chris.
Well, you don't have to tell me.
No, come on now. No, we all find out at the same time. But I do want to kind of come back to your question of, so I think that what we've been trying to do is we've been trying to put together a body of work that's worthy of these conversations, and we've done that. So many times you hear coaches say, like, control what you can control. Let the field, let everything that happens on the field speak for itself. Well, we have done that. We are 10-2. Now, there's some bias that we have felt like we've had to overcome. So if you think about the fact that, you know, Diego Pavia gets another year of eligibility, and when you look at our roster from the very beginning of this year with the experience that's represented there, right? The experience, the veteran experience on the roster and all of the pieces that were around him. And preseason-wise, people had no expectations clearly based on the rankings of what that group could do. At that time, though, preseason, that's just about what you think of a brand or what you assume. There's no body of work to back that up. That's just people's opinions. So rather than complain about that, we said, let's put together a body of work that challenges that opinion. And we did. And so we've had to overcome, you're sort of behind the 8 ball anyway at the start. So week in and week out, we've had to overcome that. We don't think we should have to overcome it anymore because now there is data that beats opinions. And it always should.
Teresa?
Candice, is there a little bit of a worry or concern that the SEC, that there's this thought that there's this many SEC teams, we can't allow any more in? I know Greg Sankey's been kind of lobbying already for the last month that, yes, 6 teams, could easily be considered for this field. That conference maybe part of the backlash, if, as you're trying to fight against that with the data?
I understand the question, Teresa, and I think you're describing what some people perceive as like SEC fatigue. The fact of the matter is that we're the best conference in the country, and it shouldn't matter how many teams are coming from that conference if you're trying to put the best field forward. So the question that has to be answered is who has put themselves in position to compete for a national championship? Of course, we deeply believe in the competitiveness of the SEC, but the numbers actually bear it out. So the SEC fatigue that you're referencing, that's just another word for bias, or that's just another synonym for bias. We think data should beat bias every day. Chris. Sorry, I did your job. I'm not supposed to call. You are. I'm sorry.
You've had a lot of success. You've had more students at games. You've had more excitement around the program than you've had probably ever. How has that changed just the atmosphere, the narrative, the feeling around athletics on campus?
I think it's clear that we're rewriting the narrative. That process has been ongoing. It has been our vision to be able to take the academic distinction that Vanderbilt stands for and couple that with championship caliber athletics and create something special for the community. We have said that as a vision. Now I think you can point to it as an actual data point. And so this season feels like proof of concept on that. I want the athletics department and our athletics experience that we're providing to be something special for all students at Vanderbilt. It feels like you can say that now, right? It feels like an integral part of what we're doing day in and day out on campus. And so when people want to talk about the return on investment, I think there are so many indicators from this year that show that it is worth it. So I think, yes, Chris, we've seen the change locally, but we've actually felt it even far beyond that. So now everywhere you go, people know what that V is. They're not confusing it for Virginia, or Valpo or whatever V school they know. They know it's Vanderbilt. And I think there is a halo effect because you're seeing that athletic success transcend the football program, and across our portfolio we're experiencing a lot of firsts, and that's worth recognizing.
Chris Harris and Teresa.
All right, so over the last 24 hours or so, we've seen a lot of SEC teams now with new coaches, and we've seen a lot of numbers and salaries and all of that, and you guys just re-signed your guy too. So I'm curious, in your conversations with Clark, like when it came down to, all right, the brass tacks, and here are the numbers, here's what we want to do, what was the most important thing from his aspect that he wanted when you hashed out that deal?
The great news is that the most important thing to Clark was the most important thing to me and to us, and that was putting this football program in position to sustain success. So in order to do that, I appreciate that everybody is looking at this year and perhaps looking at it in isolation. I think that's just it's an incomplete picture, because I think you have to look at the steps that we've taken over the past 5 years to grow the program to get to this point. And we don't want it to be just something that happened and then we go back to status quo. Like, there is a new norm here, and that norm is to compete at the highest level, which means it takes resources and investment. So again, Vandy United in 2021, that was a signal that we were sending. So I think that when people ask you, like, what keeps you up at night? What keeps me up at night is, like, I want this progression and this trajectory to outlive and outlast all of us. So you have to make sure that the infrastructure is in place to support it, that everything that you need is actually in place, and that there's a plan and a strategy. That was important to Clark. That was important to me. Thankful always for the support of our chancellor and our board. That was important to them. So this was about solidifying the partnership so that we can keep progressing. That's what the extension represents, and the fact that continuity and leadership is so important, and we have the best football coach for the best program.
Teresa?
Candice, another piece of maybe the argument, the fact that coaching continuity, you don't have, Clark's here. He's not taking another job. The staff's not been savaged. How much does that help you? And then a partial follow-up, as an AD, the calendar itself with portal, NIL, signing date, is that something that at the AD level needs to be maybe rejiggered a little bit to make it easier to focus on the best time of the year?
Yeah, so the first part of your question is just how much does the leadership continuity help? And I'll go back to my earlier point that Vanderbilt football we're playing our best football of the year at the right time of the year. And our coaching staff is intact. Our vision is clear. There's clarity in our process. So I feel confident in that, and so not here to talk about what other schools or other people are dealing with, but we have been consistent and the key elements for that consistency are still in place. So I would think that that would just generate more confidence about why we should be included and why I believe we're one of the best teams in the country. Second part of your question is around just the timing and the calendar. As athletic directors and as football coaches and with our conference office, with the other A4 conferences, we're constantly thinking about what is the best approach to take. So I think all things are under consideration. You know, this is such an interesting time in college athletics where I think we finally have given ourselves a license to question some things that perhaps have come to us as a result of a short-sighted approach. Like, we need to zoom out and zoom out together and think about what does a calendar really need to look like? How do we remove some of our pain points and pressure points? We talk about this all the time, and you know, I'm constantly appreciative that, one, we're in the SEC, and two, that Greg Sankey is our commissioner, because he's very, very thoughtful in his approach, and I think collectively we can figure some things out. We do need to figure it out, because you're right that, you know, we just keep condensing the calendar, and so thereby we keep increasing the pressure points. So I think there's some opportunity to change that, and we'll continue to work together to do so.
A few more things on Clark's extension. First, can you confirm that he signed a new 6-year deal? And second, did that deal include any guarantees for assistant salary, NIL, or any other sort of increased investment in other areas besides his own salary?
Happy to confirm that Coach Lea has a long-term contract. We're very excited about the stability in the future. We have consistently invested in our program to ensure that we have the resources to be successful.
Chris Lee?
Facilities, do you have any timelines on groundbreaking for different things and completion goals?
What I can tell you is that we're being very aggressive within our internal processes. So we announced 2 Fridays ago, was it, Brian? Or shared in a communication to the community 2 Fridays ago that we were continuing the push with Vandy United, and that was going to include the Football Experience Center, which wasn't really new news because we had already announced football operations as being a part. And I think what the important signal there was to show that we are continuing to ramp up. You know, we had set an original $300 million goal. We've surpassed that. We're not going to shrink the vision. We're going to keep marching towards everything that we need to do to touch our entire portfolio, and football operations / experience center is a big part of that. First thing you have to do is work on design. So we're at the beginning of that process, Chris. So while I don't want to commit to a time frame yet because there's still some information that we're waiting on, but I can tell you, and I think we can now point to all the shovels that have been in the ground, the projects that have been completed to date. We're going to be as aggressive as possible. That's important to both Coach Lea and myself.
That was the Friday before the Kentucky game, was the announcement.
Was that 2 Fridays ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before Thanksgiving.
Okay, yeah.
Time for 1 or 2 more.
What will it be like, the waiting up until whenever you find out whatever tomorrow?
What will the waiting be like? All I can tell you is that we're excited to be not just in the conversation, we want to drive the conversation. So I don't know that there'll be much sitting around. You know, as we've been since the beginning of the season, we're going to be aggressive about chasing what we think is rightfully ours. And in the meantime, I'm thrilled with the progress that we've made, and even more thrilled that we've put a foundation in place to be successful for the future. And just so much credit to everybody. You know, I said on coming off the field, that was you, Chris, coming off the field, and I'm like sort of breathing hard because I was hollering and screaming, and we were all so excited. And I'm trying to put some words together, and I don't know if they made sense, but I remember saying something to the effect that we were rewriting the narrative, and that the past would suggest that we didn't have that right. I think we have proven that we do. And so if you want to be stuck in the past, shame on you, because you'll miss what this is. And that would be disrespectful to our student athletes and to our staff and to our administration and to everybody in Commodore Nation who's been waiting on this moment, who believed before anybody else believed. When we had vision that was beyond our resources. So now you want proof of concept? Proof of concept is here. And now it's about making sure that we can build on this. Everybody in this building has been working towards that. So they deserve credit where credit is due.
And just to be clear on when you say you personally agree, like, are you physically, like, are you on the horn with people you know on the committee? And like how real does that get? Like, give us a sense of like exactly what you're doing.
What I'm doing is talking about how great Vanderbilt is. And I'll talk to anybody who will listen, because it's not a great story, it's just facts. It's just facts. And as I told y'all, facts should beat bias every day. The facts speak for themselves.
You brought up Greg Sankey. Do you communicate with him and get him to sort of wave the flag for you guys as well?
And Greg Sankey has done a great job of representing the SEC, which he should in his role as commissioner, and on all of us who, we believe are and should be in contention for a spot in the CFP. So he's doing a great job of that. And, we've done, part one was put the body of work together. Part two is to make sure everybody understands what that is.
All right. Thank you, Candice.
Okay, thank y'all. Appreciate you being here.